evening. Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. WeatherBrains 1008. Wow. For the 12th of May, 2025, this is the pre-show. Magical time of the program where we typically do three things. We share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and from time to time we say very outrageous things. And if you were looking for the show content, move the slider over about 8 minutes, 7 minutes, and we'll start here at the top of the hour. So, hope you've had a good day today. Hope you had a good Mother's Day yesterday. Got some thunderstorms where we are. Within the last 30 minutes, I've received over 200 rainbow photos. It is a rainbow chasing kind of evening here, which is a good kind. And a little rain, a little bit of small hail, but all is well. So, so you got Bill and we got John, got the big brains on here. This is going to
Brother,
feel good about this night. I feel good. Some nights I feel iffy. I feel good about this one.
This would be an
feel
iffy,
good?
James.
Iffy?
I hate to tell you, this is iffy.
Well, if the guest doesn't show up, we've always got things to talk about. John, look, just set John,
Well,
just let him go.
if
Just
that's
let him.
okay, then it's not iffy. We're good to go then. Yeah,
No, we
we're
are
golden.
always good to go with John Gordon on here.
We're always
I
good to go, King. I was praising you today to a bunch of people.
Oh boy. No, 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 no. John,
I
see, I want to be
was.
John Gordon when I grow up because if you hear him
Like,
speak, you feed back on that energy. You feed back. It's literally visceral. And you take that with you as you go. And I need that dose of energy on a weekly basis.
There
I'm
you
on
go.
the
Now
JV
you get
team.
it.
I'm on the JV team, and I'm glad to set up the big guy. Very much so.
Oh,
If you and I
oh.
speak back to back, no one will speak after. No one. Everyone
That's
will
right.
leave.
There's no hope. There's no hope. We but the best part when John talks, these student conferences, he'll come right up to these kids. I mean, he'll come right up to them and ask them questions. And they're good questions. They're not, it's not intimidating. They're good questions, but the look on their eyes, they just, whoa, John Gordon's like in my face. I better not blow this one. It's
I
good.
didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
We went to the
Um,
mixer. We went to the mixer, James, at BJ's Brew House at CCAPS this year.
yeah.
And I brought all these swag to give away. All I had to do is answer one question. Just answer a question.
One.
And I said, "What's the hottest temperature ever in Alabama?" Nobody knew. I'm like, "You are meteorology majors." I knew this when I was like 10.
It's like, yeah, I do the same thing. A lot of times I'll get high school kids in here. They'll come in here and they're interested in majoring in meteorology, and I will ask them 10 questions, and I will know at the end of those 10 questions if it's their passion in life. And to do this, you need to be called. This needs to be your passion. And if you don't know most of the answers to these questions, then it's not really your passion, which is fine. It's something else. You're going to be really good at something else. But I have a 10-question exam for kids that have grown up here where I am. And if they really like weather, and these are pretty easy, if you're even remotely a weather dweeb, if you're a junior or senior in high school, you would know this. And some of the kids ace it. I mean, some of them just spit it out. I mean, they know. I mean, they're ready to go. You're good. Uh, and it's the
Splits
same
up
thing
there,
with
I
the
would fail.
yeah
I think you should
yeah.
give us that test tonight, James. Let's see
and
how
and then
how we
and
do.
well you have it's about Alabama. It's a too narrow focus question here.
Well, at
But
least give
the
it to
other the
me. See
other
if I
Yeah,
can make
give
a
it to
70 on
Bill.
it.
Let's give
Yeah.
it a try.
Yeah, go ahead,
the
Bill.
the
You do
the
it.
the other thing I do when I take these
My
kids into
last
the
night in the
Walmart, it's
industry.
this. Yeah, that's right. So, I take these college interns into the Walmart in Adamsville, and I engage them in conversation with the Walmart folks, the folks that are shopping, and Again, to me, it represents the best cross section of the people we serve. You've got everybody in there. High income, low income. You've got right wing, left wing. You've got young, you've got old, you've got city, you've got country. It's all in there. You've got those that don't speak English well. It is all in there. And I will get them to talk with different people that don't look like them, that don't look like you. They don't think like you. They don't live where you live. They don't have the same education. And if you can't communicate with those people in the Walmart, or if you find them offensive, then you might want to go into research and maybe not be on the front line with the public because, and that's a good little test too. But between the high school questions and the Walmart exam, I will know if you can do this, be a practitioner where you're on the front lines.
Will you take me sometimes, James? I want to do that. That sounds like fun.
The Walmart thing is great. They love me at that Walmart.
Yep.
They know every summer, when I'm bringing kids in there, they know exactly what it is, and they're delighted to see me. And those kids, some of the kids are so nervous, they're literally sweating. You can see their armpit sweat, these guys. And I said, guys, just calm down. It's okay. It's okay. I know this is a big moment for all of us, and then I take them to Sammy's, Bill, not the Sammy's that you're thinking of, but the Sammy's Sandwich Shop in Kingston, which is in it's an inner city little place. It's just best hamburger in the city. Best hamburger.
Yeah, but way far the best hamburger in the city. I think it's closed right now temporarily, though, James.
What?
I think it's closed.
That's an outrage.
Oh goodness!
I do.
Well, it's a
maybe
family
not.
in
No,
Homewood
it's back open. It's back open. Never mind.
Okay.
It was closed briefly at some point. I know. I can go back now, so I'll go there tomorrow.
They deserve a patty on the back for reopening so quickly.
Oh boy!
How do you do that?
That's so good.
You must have like an alternate brain that is like constantly
it's
running.
pretty much zero
it's not,
brain.
it's not that.
My husband is the same way. He is so punny, and I tell him it's like, how when we study sine functions, early on in like pre-calc, it's like his brain is like phase shifted pi halves ahead of everybody else. It's like it just processes a little bit faster, and he says it, and then it takes that wavelength, that half wavelength, to catch up, and then you just go, oh.
That's in comparison to mine, where I have my reality tomorrow after I've said it 6 to 12 hours ago. I said, damn. Oh.
Yep.
So we could get started. Welcome to our television viewers. This might be a homegrown show, Bill. Is that the deal?
I'm afraid so. Kim, I built it up to Kim.
What could go wrong there? Yeah.
And so she was all excited, had great questions.
I did. I was so excited. Durango weather guy. Talk about Maine weather. Like, how different.
Maybe it's a powder day in Durango or something. I don't know.
It's been pretty pretty snowy in a big portion of the Rocky Mountain chain, so maybe.
But he never responded all afternoon, so I don't know.
Well, he probably watched some of the past shows, and he decided the best thing for his image is to stay far away from this. All right, let's get this thing started here.
That's fair.
I don't blame him at all.
Yeah.
All right, track 1 and track 2, and here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to WeatherBrains. They're kind of a big deal.
WeatherBrains episode 1008 for Monday, May 12th. This is the weekly show all about weather. We are not the best weather podcast in the world, but hey, we're the oldest weather podcast in the world, 19 years old. We started in January of 06, and here we are still cranking them out today. And let's go around the horn here. Looks like we got pretty much a full crew on the line here. I see Dr. James Adelot with his OU flag banner proudly representing the Sooners. James, what's on your mind?
Absolutely gorgeous weather in Oklahoma. So it's been 2 perfect May weekends in a row here, and that just rarely happens in May. It'll all come to a screeching halt next weekend. I've already kind of canceled my Sunday plans, and I'm planning to be at work. So we'll see.
Ooh. Yeah, this is like you should be busy in May, right? I mean, this is kind of like
Yeah.
prime time, isn't it?
Oklahoma has had one tornado in May so far, and that was down by Cookie Town, which is in southwestern Oklahoma, and there are no cookies available in Cookie Town.
Well,
Wow,
that's
that's a
sad.
great show title right there. No
Wait,
cookies in Cookie Town.
How do you know that? I can say, by the way, Liberal, Kansas, Pancake Boulevard is one of the main drags through that town. I stayed there as part of the IHOP project, the International H2O project. I craved
IHOP
pancakes like
project.
you would not believe. Never got pancakes because we were always deployed. We drove like 16 hours a day.
What?
Yeah.
What?
And I was never there when the pancake house, there's literally a pancake house on Pancake Boulevard. It was never open. It was the saddest.
That's sad.
No.
That's a very sad story.
I know. Thank
Wow.
you.
Kim, have you been to Cookie Town?
Well, now I feel like I've got to investigate. But if I go, I might just curse them all. But you claim that they don't have cookies anyway. So I don't know. I think this needs to be investigated.
I guess so. I don't see Rick Smith on. I was going to ask Rick if he's been to Cookie Town. Maybe Rick is in Cookie Town tonight. That's the reason he's not here. I don't know. But let's go down to Troy, where I've been some of the forecast highs for.
Oh my
And y'all,
neck
every
of
one
woods.
every one of you sat here last week, and I said it's going to be 137. Now, slightly off. It's only going to be 135, but but still, it's on the way. And what's really weird is this morning we were down to 52 with the dry air in place and everything, and now comes the killer ridge, the lid on the atmosphere, as I always call it. We'll see. We got a little rain last week, but not that much. It really depended here in South Central Texas exactly where you were. Some areas got some 1 to 2 inch totals, like out at the airport, but here at the house, things are still pretty dismal out in the yard. So.
We do weather for a station down in McAllen.
Yeah.
And I forecast 104 for them Wednesday. And just, it's that's kind of, yeah. Listen, as I get old, I like winter. Kids love summer, but when you get old, it flips. When you get old, you just love winter. And so we're entering the season where school's about out, and all the graduations, they were either last week or this week. The high school kids, they're done. And they're headed off to the beach, and that's kind of that opens the summertime here. So I guess triple-digit heat in Texas is a sign of the times.
Yep.
I guarantee you, John Gordon, you're not going to have triple-digit heat in Kentucky.
No, but we might hit 90. And we got people going, we could have breaking news. I'm like, 90 degrees in May is really not that unusual, people. You need to get a grip. I'll tell you this, 2 quick weather things. One, how many of you, WeatherBrains, would have picked Utah and Idaho as the mecca for Mother's Day severe weather yesterday? They had 100 reports in Utah.
Wow.
100. How many in Oklahoma?
What?
0. Secondly, my dad in Pinehurst, North Carolina, says, I feel like Jesus is coming. We've had 40 days of rain. He's up to 6.5 inches of rain. He wonders when the end is. There's an ark being built in North Carolina.
Oh, John, the end is near. Anyway, sorry.
Wait, he thought it was because of rain or not easterly winds?
I don't know. There's a couple other things around the world that are bugging me right now, so I just wondered. So
now, is that an official forecast, Troy?
Yes, no, whatever. Yeah.
So do I need to dig a hole or what, Troy? I mean, Troy knows.
Yes, no, James.
Just go back and watch that Prepper episode again.
Yeah, Prepper. There you go.
Yeah, so let's go up to the Arctic Circle and Jen.
Yes.
Hi.
So how warm will you get this week?
I think we get up to about 84. I see that for Friday. So pretty warm up here too. Right now we're wet. We got wet today with this low. And I think it's going to be kind of stormy at least through Wednesday early in the night. And then we get a little break Thursday, Friday, and then a little bit more rain Friday night. And then we're in the 70s for the weekend. So I'll take that. But yeah, we had a great weekend. Great for Mom. So it was awesome.
Yeah, we've had this little upper low just west of our location here, Bill Murray. It's been a little unsettled. We shot some video out.
Did I see? Did
So
I
say
see guys?
we should.
Yeah, I've been. Did I see like around Starkville and areas like that in East Central Mississippi where they had some excessive rainfall amounts, or in parts of Mississippi?
Yeah, they all.
Yeah,
Tuscaloosa had a record rainfall on Saturday, I think.
Really?
And they were well over 8 inches, James. They're probably close to 10 for the month. Now I'll have to look and see what it is. We've had 6.67 inches here at my house so far.
James, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say we were outside. We were doing some video work outside Saturday, and it was raining and 56 degrees in the middle of the afternoon.
Yes.
And,
that little backdoor cold front was pretty nice.
All these baseball playoff games were going on, and you got everybody freezing to death. All the kids were freezing, soaked just like wet noodles, and it was cold. And you know, typically it's not like that here in May. But having said that, I like getting the good soil moisture in May. It just going into summer. The one thing I don't like heat waves. I don't like droughts. They're bad. I don't like them in any way, shape, or form. So having a nice little surplus of rain going into June is always a good thing. I know it's inconvenient for people that have outdoor things like graduations, that all these high school graduations, they're at their football stadiums, and they're trying to figure out when's it going to rain. But anyway, this upper low is going to kick out, and Bill Murray will probably be close to 90 later this week, so it's going to heat up here.
We're going to see a lot of upper 80s, near 90 for the next 10 days or so. But the little band of very heavy rain that formed yesterday and kind of migrated over near the Mississippi border, sort of backed up overnight, came over us about 11 o'clock. It was some nice thunder and lightning right before bedtime. It was pretty cool. And we just had a really good shower. We got a flood advisory right now on the eastern side of Birmingham. And there's a lot of good flooding right over here around the summit areas around Highway 280.
Send some of that stuff west, please. Thank you.
Sorry, Troy. I saw that 107 coming for San Antonio on Tuesday, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
Now, we've talked about this before, but I'm sort of like James, or at least I understand that James. If you can keep me away from winter storm, i.e., February of 21 or February, then I like winter more than I like summer. I can live with it down here. I like it to be cool. So
yeah, it's just
you make everything cool.
Thank you, buddy.
No, there you go, Tensei.
Thank you, sir.
So
I love
Bill. If we declared let's get real here. If we declared a homegrown show, if we
I think we're officially
declared
declaring it. I checked my email many times this morning.
This is good. I love a good homegrown show. So everybody can bring out their own topic, free for all, no plan. This is great.
Okay, can I ask a question? This comes off. This is probably being nosy, but I figured out, James in Tulsa, you're looking great, man. Are you losing weight?
Yes, sir. Thank you for noticing.
No, I just understand that based on something you told us in the chat, and I've noticed it, but I'm afraid to say anything. But you're really looking great.
Yeah, look at you.
Thank you,
James. 30. You didn't have 35 pounds to lose, though, James.
Yeah, that may be true. Lord knows I have 35 times 5 that I need to lose. So,
yeah,
listen,
35 since last July, and it's been a good process. But I had 35 to lose. I don't think James A did.
Oh, I did. Oh, yeah. But it's just better.
James A grew up in Springfield, home of Aunt Martha's, and you ate at Aunt Martha's, and that's what did those 35 pounds. I know Aunt Martha's pancake place.
Golden brown and delicious.
Oh wow!
Willie Nelson worked there.
Really?
When he was 18 years old.
Wow.
But I do think that being in good physical condition helps your mental cognition ability. I honestly believe that to be true.
Still waiting on that part.
Well, last July, I couldn't run for more than a minute and a half.
What do you want to run for?
Well,
is there a bear?
It's like a vicious cycle. Because the more you're able to run, the more weight you lose, the more you can run. And now I can run 3 miles easily and effortlessly.
Running from what? Yeah.
And it's, and I'm not really fast, but like James says, it makes all the difference in the world. Blood pressure, other things. Headaches have kind of gone away pretty much.
No, we're still here on the show. Don't talk about us
Yeah.
in front of each other.
We're not gone.
Yeah, really.
You
We're
go.
still
In a
here.
literal sense.
Anything but
Right, in a
headache.
literal sense. But there's something really important there, and good job, Bill. Like, good for you for getting at that. And there's a really important message there that anytime any of us can pick up and be healthier and make that difference for ourselves. I do wonder how much people in our field right now are taking care of themselves. I have to admit, I haven't been a bastion of taking care of myself the past couple of months, and my baseline was pretty great going into it. So I'm not running. I'm like not eating as well. There's a glass of wine at night to just kind of say, okay, I'm going to forget everything that happened today.
Yeah.
This is a great adaptation strategy. And I mean, everybody's had some way to get through it, but from what I'm gathering from a lot of friends, they're resonating with my, less healthy habits have been encroaching, and I bet that there are a lot of people kind of feeling crummy for lots of reasons now.
Well, that my doctor has always told me that and of course this has everything to do with age because I'm older than everyone here, but it says it's better to walk 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a day, every day. By the way, you can't take a break. You have to do it continuously every day, that you can actually lose more weight that way, as long as you're not eating a half of a cow every day, then, you're going to lose some weight. But the running thing, exercise, that'll kill you.
Well, the whole secret for me was net calories at 1,700 for several months. That's it's all simple algebra.
You mean human
that's
portions?
What did it for me? Yeah. You don't feel like you're getting much food, that's for sure. But if you can knock off 500 calories or so in exercise, that gives you 2,200 calories to eat, which save yourself room for a little banana pudding or something before bedtime, and then at least you feel like you've splurged.
You're both looking good.
Right. There's multiple ways to do it. But the thing that I think after I had finished having all the kids, I went on a big let me get healthy again, binge. And especially coming out of COVID and oh my gosh, running the research team through COVID, while having two kids, that was a stressful time. So one of the things that actually pulled me out of it was my youngest. She just had this thing of waking up in the middle of the night consistently every night around the same time. And I took that as an opportunity to do weight training exercises with her because she wouldn't let me put her down. So she liked being rocked. And I would just do like lunges across her room with the baby. And it would serve dual purpose. So if there's any moms in our field listening, that's a pro tip right there. You just if you're going to be up anyway, rocking the baby, just make it really worth your while. And I almost feel bad, like, oh man, I just don't have. I used to just sacrifice the time. Like I had the time in the middle of the night to exercise. Now I have to actually make time somewhere, and I'm sleeping well. But maybe I should just wake up again in the middle of the night and do weight training.
Well, Span's been an inspiration for me because he's made time every day, and it's paid off in his life. And
here's my problem. Literally about 8, 9, 10 years ago, I was starting to call out wrong places during tornado coverage. Something was a little off, and I'm thinking, good grief, am I getting so old that I can't remember things? And I felt horrible. I had no energy. I was constantly fatigued. I honestly didn't think I was going to live much longer. And there is a little gym right across the street from the TV station, and I'm not a gym guy. Our son trained over there. He played high school baseball, and I thought it was just for athletes. But they had a deal where they do the CrossFit thing, and they encouraged me to come over there. So the first couple of times it was horrible. I mean, it was horrible. I was sucking wind after literally 2 minutes. The third time I came down here and I threw up in this trash can right here. I mean, I barfed in this trash can. But it started to click in, and so 10 years later, like today, and I make time. You have to make time to do this, and it's a commitment. And if I don't, I won't live much longer. I know that. So, but today they're doing prep for the MRF. Has anybody ever done the MRF, or do you know what the MRF is? So
No.
every year on Memorial Day, and Murphy was either an Army Ranger or a Navy SEAL. He was killed in action, a hero. And this is to honor Murph, and I think part of the proceeds that goes to the veterans, some of the ministries to serve veterans. But you put on a weighted vest. Typically, it's a 20-pound weighted vest, and the first thing you do, you run a mile. So then you come back into the gym and you do 100 pull-ups, 100. Then you do 200 push-ups, 200. Then you do 300 air squats. And then, remember, this is all with a weighted vest.
I'm already up to my funeral arrangements now.
and then you run another mile.
Uh-uh.
And so, today was part of the Murph training thing, and they do it on Memorial Day. And I, at my age, I do a half Murph, which they let old people do. But some of these young kids, it's amazing what they do. But you run a mile with a weighted vest, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, and you run another mile. And listen, I feel better now than I felt when I was 25 years old. I could win a bar brawl if I had to get in one right now. I mean, I'm strong as an ox.
Wow. Another show title.
But the key message for those that are doing this science is that my cognitive skill is better now than it was 30 years ago. And it's so much better than it was 10 years ago. And you've got to have that when you're standing on that wall doing high impact weather event coverage. And if you make a mistake, that could kill somebody. In the minute I start making constant mistakes, I'm done. That's when I'll stop. I'll never stop until that happens. And to prevent that from happening, the physical fitness part of this thing has become really important to me. And I've never been a gym rat. I've never thought about it. When I was young, I was underweight. And then I finally ballooned out when you hit middle age. But I've lost about 30 pounds, and I just feel good. I'm energized. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to get up every morning at 4 o'clock and do what I do. I go to bed at 1. I get up at 4. I sleep 3 hours. There's something wrong with that. I know that, but it is what it is. To do what I do, to be successful, that's what I have to do. And it doesn't matter. I can't wait. I'm doing what I love to do. So my wish for everybody that's listening to this show is that they love their life every day, where they can't wait to come to work and come home after work. That's my wish for everybody. And I think there's a lot of high school kids and younger kids that listen to this show. And if weather is truly your passion, goodness gracious, you're about to join the ride of a lifetime. It's unbelievably good. And it doesn't stop. I don't think I've ever had a bad day. Yeah, you have days that are frustrating, but I've never had really a bad day. And so that's my hope for you. And I was hoping that while we have an open floor here and everybody can pick their own topic here, but I was going to defer for just a moment to John Gordon to give a little compressed version of the talk that you give to college students in prepping them for getting a job at the National Weather Service. Your advice is second to none. So I was hoping, John, you would talk to maybe those younger people, the high school kids. And let me say this too, there's a lot of people in their 20s and they feel like that they had the wrong major. They're in the wrong career. They love weather. They look at it every day. They love it. And they want to get into it when they're in their 20s and maybe in their 30s or even older. So give some advice to these younger people, John.
Thanks, James. That's very kind of you. So, all right. So if you're a young listener and you want to get into the greatest profession of all, I'm going to meet you. Me and James are going to meet you, or Troy, we're going to meet you. What was the event that got you into weather? You better have an answer immediately. If you don't have that answer, I'm already disinterested. Watch this. I'll do it. James Adeldot. What was the event that got you into weather, James?
June 8th, 1974, 100 tornadoes in Oklahoma.
Okay. Kim, what got you into weather?
She ran off. She didn't want to answer that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
What got you?
I'm here. I'm here. No, I have an answer too. It's the Plainfield tornado of 1990 outside of Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay. Troy, what event got you in?
12:55 in the afternoon, Sunday, April 19th, 1970, Corinth, Mississippi, EF4 tornado.
There you go. Jen, what got you in?
Hurricane Gloria, 1985.
5, yeah. Well done. Bill Murray, what got you in?
April 3rd, 1974, the night that I went from being terrified of severe weather and tornadoes to being absolutely fascinated by it.
Yeah. James Spann, the legend. What was the event that
May
got
20,
you in?
May 27th, 1973. May 27th, 1973, at the end of my junior year in high school, F4 tornado tore through a community called Brent, which is southwest of Birmingham. My hobby was ham radio. They desperately needed communicators. I went down with the first group. I got down there, and I love weather. I couldn't wait for storms, couldn't wait for tornadoes. I never thought about the negative side of it until I got down there that night. That changed everything. I saw darkness, human suffering. I smelled the scent of death for the first time in my life. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget. I can remember, I can close my eyes and I was there. 5 people died in town, and we stayed there for 3 days working communications. And it was a life changer. May 27th of 73, many years ago.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, my event was Agnes. Agnes, who would not die. Agnes would not die. She died on Bewitched, but she did not die in real life. She came ashore and would not. Toronto got hit by 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds. How about them apples? Anyway, so
Wow.
youngsters, what can you do right now? Do you have a rain gauge? Are you taking observations? Are you watching weather maps? Are you going to the College of DuPage? Are you watching James Spann or James Ameldot? Are you following people in weather? Do you read the area forecast discussion?
Yeah.
I'd say, which discussions do you read? They look at me like I'm on Mars or something.
Too
And I'm
busy
like, are
second
you
guessing.
involved in? Go ahead.
I said they're too busy second guessing ratings of
Yes, I
hurricanes and
know. Where should
tornadoes.
those people stink? They need a warning here now.
It had to be an EF5.
It's amazing how many EF5s there are, and yet we haven't had one since more.
Yeah.
More.
Okay, so the one now, let's say you're in college. So find a good college that meets your needs. All right. If you want to go into research and you want to work for the National Severe Storms Laboratory, then you should find maybe an OU track, maybe, right? You want to go tropical. Oh yeah, go ahead. We got a cheerleader in the corner. There we go. You want to go to tropical? You want to learn about hurricanes, tropical cyclones? Florida State might be for you. You want to go operational? Penn State, Valparaiso, things like that, Millersville. So here's the deal. Let's say we had one job, meteorology students at SLU and at Metro State and A&M. Let's say there's 40 positions. There's 40 people for one job. You all take synoptic, you all take mesoscale, you all take dynamic, you take calculus, you take physics. What are you doing that's different than everybody else? Are you going to be the next James Spann? What are you doing and working harder than everybody else? Are you just going to get your C's and B's and hide in the back of the room? Are you engaged? Are you involved with your professors? Are you doing a research project? Are you doing like weather history like Bill Murray? Bill Murray's an amazing guy. He's the weather historian. He loves weather. Okay. Are you going to work harder than everybody else? So the gift that I look for hiring more than any other quality is the gift of perseverance. I love people and people who make mistakes, admit they make mistakes, own it, and then learn from it. So my basic thing, I'll finish up, James, here.
No, take your time. This is good stuff. You take your time. This is good. People need to hear this.
Mhm.
So this has been my hiring. I made a few errors in hiring early on, and I wondered, well, why did I make this error? What did I miss?
Who were they?
I will not say on the air, but thank you.
Oh yeah.
The biggest error was me. But anyway, the big thing is I realize that extroverts can fool me more than introverts on interviews. So I sealed up my interviews. So I've made it a very diverse interview. I have vision. I have some weather questions. I have to do video sound bites. I want to know what you know about our company or any of the panelists' company, what you know about that. I want to know about teamwork. I give you some nasty scenarios. What are you going to do with this mess? So anyway, the bottom line is I start with, once we go through transcripts, we go through resumes, we check references, and a reference means don't give me. You may think I'm going to call the reference you picked. But I know that they know Troy Kimmel. I'm going to call Troy up. I call who I want, not who you want. And I like really straight shooters on reference checks. Y'all agree with that? Thumbs up.
Yep.
Like, yeah, straight shooters. I mean, what's his name? Central Michigan, Marty Baxter. I will tell you this quick story. Marty Baxter is a rock star. One time, this did happen. I got a letter, a nice recommendation letter. So you think, well, this is going to be great. This is going to be a wonderful thing. Dear John, blah, blah. I was asked to write a letter for, I don't know, Bob Smith or something. He says, I want you to know I honored what he wanted, but he is the worst student I have ever had at Central Michigan. I would not hire him. He gave me all these reasons of not to hire this person.
Wow.
It was wonderful. Thank you. You know, our words are our bond, right? Don't we agree? Our word is our bond. So once we go through all that, we go through the whole process. You hire A for people skills. If you don't have good people skills, you're gone. You don't even get anything. You're in the trash. If I found out you're an arrogant jerk, a non-team player, if you're lazy, sorry there, James.
I'm out.
I'm out. Bye, y'all.
Oh, please.
Anyway, people skills are the most important of all. I can train you to do a lot. I can't train you to be a nice person. Do what James Spann said. Go to the Walmart. I take students out on storm surveys and make them go talk to the residents. I said, you think that's easy? You think that's easy going to this person? It's not easy. I don't enjoy it, but it's a thing I have to do. I'm obligated to talk to the people who went through this terrible thing. Period. End of story. Then we go through the next thing I look for, believe it or not, is innovation. I like people who think differently. All these people on the panel here, folks, think differently than everyone else. And that is a great gift. I like Steve Jobs' mindsets, Ted Fujita. I like Mike Gibson. Mike Gibson's an amazing guy. He should be the role model for everybody. He hated his job. He worked at Microsoft. He was miserable. Came home, told his wife, I hate that place. I'm quitting. And she said, what are you going to do? I don't know. Well, what do you like to do? Well, I like weather, but I don't like the weather radars they show. Well, the rest of the story. There you go.
Yep.
So I like people who innovate and think differently. Then we go on to teamwork. I so value teamwork. You have got to work in an environment, college students, high school students, you got to work with your people. Just imagine the person you cannot stand the most in life. Imagine working with them for 40 years. You've got to be able to work with others, whether or not you like them or not. You've got to be a cohesive team. And then I learned this in leadership, SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I always look at each candidate. What are they going to give me? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? And what are the threats? And then at the end of the day, you finish up, are you the right fit? Each office, whether it's 3340 or Bill Murray or Troy or James or Kim, each one of us has a unique dynamic in your office. It's just the way it is, like football. Auburn has a football team than Alabama. That's just a fact. And look at all those things. Have a very diverse hiring panel. People have got to watch your blind spots to make sure you're not biased. So I hope I gave you a few things, James.
That was outstanding. And so, of course, the next question, John, which kind of leads maybe into our next topic, a lot of college students are discouraged over what's happening within the Weather Service right now. What do you tell them? What do you tell them?
Thank you. I forgot about. Thank you, James. You're a great host and a good friend. All right. So here's the deal. I don't like what's going on. I've said my piece on that. All right. Here's the deal. If I was in your shoes at OU, at Penn State, if I was at Rutgers, if I was at A&M right now, the word of the day is diversification. Okay. You have got to be indispensable.
Yep.
So in the Weather Service, and Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, and she's on social science, that's into it. You got to understand social science. You got to understand the Weather Service right now is probabilistic is in. It's in big time. Through my whole career, you could see the peaks and valleys of what was in, what was out. Probabilistic is coming like a tsunami. You've got to be able to tell a governor that there's a 10% chance of a 100-year flood today and make him understand what that 100-year flood really means, which is another thing we could talk about because people still don't understand that. I swear. Am I right? Everyone, we don't know. Yeah, it's nuts. So you've got to be able to do that. Next thing, you've got to be able to statistics, understanding that. That's what I would be taking in college. I take as many stats classes as I could and be able to understand you're playing a game. I'm rolling a one-eyed jack in a deck of cards or a dice, getting a 9 and a deck and a 2 dice, whatever it is. So next thing, GIS is in. Everyone listening, if you're a college student or you're a high school student, I take as many GIS classes. Some colleges offer a certificate. Get it.
Yep.
You got to be able to communicate. You got to take more communications. Jen is a master of communications. James Spann, James Elda, everyone on this panel is a master of communication. You think they just woke up today and learned to be what they're doing? You got to take more classes, do more talks, get involved in Toastmasters, get involved in anything you possibly can so you can communicate better than anybody else. You got to talk to the people at Walmart. You got to talk to a governor. You got to talk to I watched Bill Reed, Max Mayfield, a bunch of them down there brief for the United States. Next thing you know, Barack Obama's there. George Bush is there. You're briefing, and you better be able to communicate very quickly, or the FEMA director, whoever it might be. Next thing I do, I would learn sign language. I would learn Spanish. I would learn business. I would take business classes to take. Look at Max. When's Max Velocity coming? When's he coming on the show?
And sometime coming up in June, I'll have to look it up.
That
John
kid,
he's on June the 9th. June the 9th.
Everyone should listen to June the 9th. And Ryan Hall came out of nowhere, right? Twitter came out of nowhere. Facebook came out of nowhere. Instagram came out of nowhere. You should make yourself indispensable what the newest thing is in there. I'll tell you a very quick story and I'll be quiet. Is that during the Boston bombing, whichever year that was, I can't remember, in Boston, at there was a young lady that worked for the Weather Service named Stephanie Dutton. Stephanie was there doing the weather support. After the bombing, all the old cronies in the EOC, nobody knew what social media was. No one. They didn't understand it. They didn't know what any of that stuff was. She ran the social media feed for Boston, the whole city, for 12 hours. Then they wanted her back the next day. You've got to be the most indispensable person. Marketing is another thing I'd take if I was in college. Marketing, business, statistics, all those kinds of things will make you separate yourself so you can get a job and get out of your parents' basement.
So anybody else in the panel want to add to John's suggestions, his advice, which is outstanding? Anybody else got any thoughts here?
Well,
I've got. Oh,
yeah.
Go ahead, Troy.
No, I'm just going to say, coming out of the University of Texas after 36 years in the classroom and retiring last December, in talking to students all the time, John, I get this feeling that I've always said diversity in college. If you can always go for that. I mean, that degree and be just so concentrated on it, but you've got to get out there and don't waste your electives. Use those to look somewhere you may never think you'd ever go, but guess what? Someday that may happen. But also get the feeling from a lot of college students, John, that before college is over with and they graduate, they all of a sudden realize they're no longer there. They don't take full advantage of what the university offers through career services, through their own departments, through career services or people in their own departments, their academic advisors in their own departments. Get in there and really, you can always come back as an alum of that place, but it's not quite the same as it can be. And by the way, whatever you do, internships beginning in your preferably in the later sophomore year, junior year, get out there, put your foot in a door, because you never will tell when you're going to walk through that door again. And get out there and prove yourself, and maybe go for some of the things, John, that you talked about, where you might not think you'd go into that field, and maybe you walk away from the internship thinking, my God, I'll never do that again. But at least you've had that opportunity. You've got to get in the real world while you're at the university.
And once you let's say you apply for 10 internships and you get none, should you give up? No.
No.
10 more.
You go to your local county emergency management and
Yes.
say, I will empty the trash. I will do whatever you want to help you. And they'll always say yes.
I want to hear more about this theory of football class at OU, James in Tulsa.
Well, they offer theory of basketball and theory of baseball too, but
Okay.
it's OU. You got to kind of do the theory of
Well,
football.
no, but it sounds interesting to me. I know that they offer a lot of interesting things, but
There are a lot of jocks in those classes.
Yeah,
Troy.
yeah.
A lot of jocks.
But I mean, those are the sort of things. And if you enjoy football, then why not? At least you've expanded your views a little bit there. But no, it's pretty amazing.
I've got
One thing about
my
resumes, real quick on resumes, can I say this, James? Is do something to get our attention. Put something on that resume that will make James Spann be interested in you, or Bill Murray. This one guy said, I'm an expert juggler. And I thought, so I asked him, tell me about your juggling. I said, how many balls can you do right now? Well, I don't know, 6. Show me. I made him show me on video. That got him an interview.
There you go.
Well, you mentioned John being indispensable, and I never really talk about how my hotel career started, because I was sailing toward being a meteorologist, and I took a job on the front desk of a hotel in 1981. And I walked in the first day, and they sat down and said, "You sit here and you answer the phone till 3 o'clock." And at 3 o'clock, I went back and said, "You can keep my paycheck. This is the worst job I've ever imagined. It's boring." And they said, "Well, stay till 11 tonight and it won't be boring." And so I did, and it was amazing. And so, at the end of that night, the general manager came back and said, "Well, what'd you think?" I said, "It was fantastic, but you're in the 19th century on technology." And this was 1981. And they were like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "You have this paper system, there are these things called computers now. You really should learn to, learn to find out about them, because you've got all these magazines over here that I was reading this morning while I was bored. And, there are these electronic key systems, and there are these, expensive phone switches, and, there are these property management systems that would make all this interesting." And, within 3 years, I was already, moving up the ladder, because I made myself indispensable, because I walked in every day and said, "Why do we do it this way?" And I said, "Here's a way we could do it better." And they said, "Hey, give him a shot. Let him go out there and spec this computer system. Hey, Murray, go spec this $125,000 phone system for us." And because I said, "Hey, if you get me this phone system, we'll make this much more money every year, because the housekeepers will be able to turn the rooms faster, and we'll be able to, get the guest satisfaction scores to go higher." And, it just began to build on itself. And, that's how I did it. And when they came around in the winter and they were cutting hours, they never cut my hours, because, they thought I was indispensable. And that's what I've always done my entire career. No matter what I was doing, I wanted to be the indispensable one. I'll do anything. I'll, be flexible. I'll take any job. I'll work 18 hours. I'll do whatever it takes. And I'll be the best, whatever that is, widget maker that you need me to be. And I can't wait to get up and do it again tomorrow. So, I think that, what you said out of everything there, John, you got to make yourself indispensable.
Also-
I tell my son that before he plays AAU basketball, There will be taller people, there will be faster people, and there will be more talented people. But there's never an excuse to not to ever be outworked playing basketball or anything else.
I'll say this. I never dreamt 28 years ago when I first became a radio broadcast meteorologist that at this point I would actually own my own company and be trying to build something that's my passion. And the one thing that as a suggestion I would give is I would get a job in retail. Customer service, you can learn so much by whether you work at a restaurant, whether you work at I started, my first job was at Orlowski's Quick Mart in Mountaintop, Pennsylvania, and I was a cashier. And then one of the best customer service jobs I had was at Eddie Bauer. And I loved it. And I still tap into those skills where you have to work with the public and you have to talk to them and you're trying to get them to buy a pair of socks on top of the parka they're just about to buy. And you want to sweet talk them into it. But you want to be able to engage and connect, and you have to know your audience, but you also have to know your product. And so if you love weather, you got to know it, and then you got to sell it, and you got to be able to let people be engaged with it. And it also helps you with your communication skills as well. I also would suggest, and I probably need to go do this as well, is to go take a public speaking class, because you never know when you're going to be called to stand there and talk in front of a group of your peers. And I'm a nervous Nelly talking in front of a group of people because I don't talk to people. I talk to myself and this microphone for a long time every day. But to get out and talk in front of people and make eye contact and engage, I would also recommend a public speaking class.
In all of this, it is so interesting how, and I did this too early on in my path. I put so much on myself to be almost like this perfect person. And all the skills you guys are covering are amazing things for people to consider. I'll add another thing to the pile that sometimes goes overlooked, but I think everyone on this panel implicitly is amazing at. And that is caring about other people and seeing their skills and helping to promote them. And it sounds weird, like, okay, so if I'm not amazing at math, I can just get further in life by recognizing the person who is great at math and plugging them into the team. Yep. Yes. And actually, that might get you a leadership position someday. Those are the people who lead stuff. And I so early in my career, especially working in this area where there weren't a lot of us, the social science, middle ground to meteorology, I felt like, oh, I've got to know everything and just bring it all to the table. And over time, I started to get contemporaries. I started to bring more people into the fold and train them. A thing that I never thought I could do is create like an intellectual heritage. That's something 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have been like, no, I was so filled with self-doubt. That's not a thing I'm going to do. But I made other people who became contributors in their own ways. I created opportunities for people where they shine. And that was a skill. I don't know how you cultivate that other than just having a big heart. And so if there are people, who are listening who feel like that's really my best skill, I don't know if I can figure out all these hard problems, but I can really care about people, do know that that's really, really needed. And as much as all the technology is changing and everything is changing so fast, yes, there are a lot of classes to think about taking and all the formal training. But I think what's gotten everyone on this panel where they are and what will continue to get people where they go in the future, the thing that will never be replaced by a machine, is caring about other people.
Empathy. We have to be able to put ourselves in the other folks' shoes. We have to be able to walk where they walk and understand what they deal with every day. I totally agree. And I'll say one more thing, one little pro tip with me. When I hire people, and I think I've shared this on this show before, and I know I've shared it at Mississippi State because some of those kids will ultimately be in here looking for a job. But I will, before an interview candidate comes in, I will eat a Rice Krispie treat. Oh, I love a Rice Krispie treat. They're good. And they come in these really obnoxious purple wrappers. If you've ever seen them in the store, very obnoxious purple color. And so I'll just chomp away on that Rice Krispie treat, just have the time of my life. And I will throw that wrapper on the floor. And then I will put the trash can, the same one I threw up in here 10 years ago, right by the wrapper and make it very obvious, make it very clear to the person coming in that the wrapper's on the floor and there's a trash can. I want to see if they're willing to pick that up and put it in the trash can. And that's not how you get the job, but that might be a tiebreaker. But it tells a little bit about the condition of your heart, that just maybe you have a servant's heart. You feel sorry. The old James Spann, the guy's old. He probably can't pick down, get down to pick this thing up. I'm going to put it in his trash can. But little things like that, that's the little intangible things we look for. And so this has been a great subject. So you ready for subject number 2? And again, I don't want to hog the conversation here, but I want to do one more subject for everybody on the show. And this has been all over weather Twitter today. Is it appropriate for a meteorologist or a weather entertainer or a YouTuber or a private sector meteorologist to issue their own watches and warnings? Who wants to tackle this subject?
I'll be glad to, because I think I'm the most, I think I've watched this entertainer the most probably of anybody on this show. So I feel equipped to answer this. I think that I think that they are good things. So I'm going to take the positive approach here, because I think what Ryan Hall is doing with his y'all watches is good. They're not.
First of all, Bill, let me explain it for those people that don't know what we're talking about.
He's, got a meteorologist on his team named Andy Hill, who's really good. Andy is really talented, very knowledgeable, and is extremely good at keeping up with dozens of storms that are going on all over the country in the background while Ryan is, running his live stream. And we've had Ryan on here before, and, super nice guy. And, he's polarizing in some areas, but he's reaching people in amazing ways. And I love watching his streams. I enjoy them. I think they're entertaining. And I think he does a great job. But now they've started issuing these y'all watches. And of course, my hair stands up on the back of my neck when I see that the first time. But then I really realize, what they are doing is filling that space a lot of times between the watch and the warning. They're giving that little extra heads up. They're not representing these as warnings. They're not calling them warnings. They're little polygons, but they're that extra little bit of heads up. And I've probably watched 40, 50 hours of Ryan since they've been doing these. And a lot of times they've given advance warning of tornadoes that were developing before the Weather Service had a warning on them. And we've talked about many, many times our friends in manufactured housing, our friends who are in other vulnerable situations might need that little extra time. And they don't represent it as a National Weather Service warning or a replacement or a News 47 35 72 extra tornado warning. They don't do that. They just, I think, do it very responsibly. So take some time next time Ryan's doing a live stream, next few days, and watch. And I think you'll, when you give it a chance and you look at it, I think you'll see that they're doing a really good job with these. Now, there may be some other panelists who disagree, but I feel really compelled to answer this tonight. And I almost answered in our text when we were, in our little text group today. But I thought, no, I'll wait till the show tonight. Because, I really have spent a lot of time watching the shows, and I think it feels a really good place. And I don't think it's any different than me coming on our blog and saying, hey, heads up for our friends in Sumter County in West Central Alabama, because, there's a cell in Lauderdale County, Mississippi that's got some really strong rotation on it, and it's, it's going to be into the western part of the county here in 45 minutes. So we want our friends in manufactured housing to be, taking that extra time to, be thinking about what they're going to do and making their moves now. And I'm not saying that's exactly what all the, the y'all watches are about. They issue a confidence level on it. I don't know if you looked at them, but, they're low, medium, high. And, sometimes they've caught tornadoes that, they've given that extra 4 or 5 minutes of warning, before even the Weather Service pulled the trigger. And I don't think that's a bad thing, especially it doesn't seem to me that they're stepping on people's toes at the Weather Service or, beating their chest and saying, this is great. They're just saying, here's that little extra bit of warning. So I say kudos to Ryan and his team for what they're doing.
Well, it's too bad that Rick Smith isn't here. He would love to, I'm sure, comment on things like existing broadcast media, longer term broadcast media doing things like issuing their own warnings. There's a lot to unpack in all of this. And there have been, in some ways, it's not all that dissimilar from broadcasters doing, the more formal things like issuing their own warning and calling it a warning, which I think gets most of the feathers up, all the way to a more typical practice, which I'm sure the Jameses here have done, where they look downstream of where something that's warned is, and they say, hey, heads up, folks, this is going to be heading into this area in the next hour, whatever. And that's essentially what Ryan Hall's doing. When I first saw their planned product, I looked at it and said, oh, well, they've taken off with what we were developing at the Severe Storms Lab, PHI and WAF, the probabilistic hazard information, where you can imagine putting out a forecast for about an hour ahead of a storm that already exists and talking about, well, what's the likelihood that this is going to go on to produce a hazard, or one on forecast that takes a somewhat bigger view up to 4 hours and does a very similar kind of thing. And with the tools we're putting in people's hands now, there is a question. Well, the Weather Service has official products at the watch stage and then the warning stage. What do we do with that in between? And even the Weather Service hasn't quite figured out what to do with it itself. There are local forecast offices that are taking warn on forecast stuff and putting it on social media. They're repackaging it into, here's a slate of like 3 counties that we're worried about within this next couple hours. Like, this is the focus area to fill in that gap. There are, the Storm Prediction Center has these micro mesoscale discussions that they've done for several years now. Since 2019, the Lee County tornado was the first famous instance of this. And they call out, just a couple little counties ahead of a storm saying, we're really worried about this. The environment's going to either persist or be worse. This is going to be a big deal. There's so much now with our rapid refresh, ensemble-based technologies that are able to give us the probabilistic estimate, and on top of helping us to understand what the severity potential is, we can query all of that. And so the question just becomes, well, how do we deliver that to people? How are they going to get it? Well, traditional broadcast media have been filling that gap in some ways for years. And okay, the Weather Service hasn't created a formal product for these gap filling things yet. We haven't even figured out where in our organization that'll live, whether a national center, a local office in the future. Who knows what the Weather Service is even going to be? How it'll structure ourselves, where it will live. In the meantime, makes a lot of sense for innovators to step into that space and put some stuff forward.
Go, Troy.
Well, my initial reaction to it is no, Bill. And let me explain to you why. In a sense, my concern comes more from the emergency manager, first responder, that perspective, since that's my world now. I had something happen interesting, Kim. I think you'd get a kick out of this, and I'm trying to decide whether I can tell y'all or whether I'll get in trouble, but who gives a damn. I was working in an EOC this weekend, and we had some thunderstorms around, and it was critical for what we had going on. And these things were just nothing severe, but a good deal of lightning and just storms that would go by, and then another would develop upstream 20 miles. And this just went on forever and ever and ever. And at one point, someone in the EOC came to me as I'm sitting there By this time, I'm already planning on what kind of vodka I want to have later that night when I get home, because I am going to imbibe on the vodka because I'm already really tired of this day. But the person turned around to me and said, well, NBC's app says this, and ABC's app says this, and CBS's app says this. Which one? And I turned around and looked at this person and I said, that's what you hire me for. I don't want to see those apps. And I guess it's just, I think from the broadcaster side, Kim, that you bring up, and I'd be interested in getting James in Tulsa or James in Birmingham. I just don't think there's enough liability on God's green earth for TV stations. And by the way, we visited this in Oklahoma City not that many years ago in a tornado warning. I won't go into details of that, but most people can remember it. If you issue a warning and someone is injured and killed trying to escape from that storm and perhaps getting into a vehicle or something like that, I just don't think there's enough insurance on the face of the earth to protect you. And I'm also worried about the confusing message that emergency management or our first responders have to have. We're already confused enough by the X's, the Twitters, the Facebooks, and then the NBC, CBS's, and the ABCs and the Foxes that are out there. That's where my concern comes from. But I'll be honest with you, I'd like to see what Ryan is doing with this, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to be open to that in the next week or so. If we get a little weather, I'll be glad to watch.
I know there were some people who said, don't put it behind a paywall. Why are you putting it behind a paywall? I don't think, and I could be wrong here. I don't think that the WeatherWise app is behind a paywall. Now, maybe the Ryan Hall layer is, and I could be wrong, and I would stand corrected. But I know that you can watch Ryan's streams without, without paying money. You can certainly, join one of his levels and get other added benefits. And,
right.
You can participate in his streams with other monetization things that he does. And, I respect that. People need to make money. We should not, begrudge them, finding ways to make money, but his basic product that is very, very usable is free. And so, I need to research that about this new WeatherWise app. I'm looking forward to learning about it because it looks like a really good product.
Okay. So I don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm just going to do it. So I bleed Weather Service blue, but we're not infallible. Okay.
Well, none of us are perfect.
This is pretty.
Yeah.
Right. This is pretty provocative, but I'm going to say it. The people in the Chicago office who were working during Plainfield have blood on their hands. Okay. That was the worst event ever. And if you don't believe it, you should go on the Weather Service assessment and read what happened in Plainfield.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing was good. Nothing. So last year we had Whitman, Nebraska. We all remember Whitman, Nebraska. I don't like the Monday morning quarterback, but anyone with any basic radar meteorology understanding could tell you that there was probably a tornado on the ground, even though there was no tornado warning. Having said that, the Weather Service goes through more training than any entity. Hundreds of hours of radar modules. And I understand why Ryan Hall and others are doing what they're doing. Okay. The question is, the thing that James Spann, I don't know what you know this. When I go to the state fair, I went to the state fairs for 40 years and I would give away a free gift. I'd give you a napkin, whatever it was. I gave you something. All you had to do is answer one question. Kim, get ready. Kim, which is worse? A tornado watch or a tornado warning? You have a 50-50 chance of getting this right. And in 40 years, no, it never got more than 50% winner. Never. So whether you're Ryan Hall, you're Max Velocity, you're James Spann, you're James Adelite, you're Troy Kimmel, you're Jen Nairmore, When 50% of our population does not understand the difference, we already have a fundamental misunderstanding of the whole process.
Yep.
We still do. And I don't understand it, but the fact is, Kim, tell me if I'm wrong, it's still a problem in 25. Still. So as long as people like Ryan are doing this responsibly and doing what Bill Murray said, I think there's some value that may be added, but I think we still have a misunderstanding of what in the heck a warning is versus a watch.
Yep. How do we fix that, guys? We've asked this question for 35 years. And then we have the word, don't forget the word advisory, because that's still there. It's going away, but it's still there. How do we fix that? We've been bringing this up for 35 years. I'm tired of it. We've been bringing it has been an issue for 35 years.
Well, can I suggest? I mean, John said earlier that he welcomes and loves all of us for being out, out of the box, out of the lane thinkers. This is something I know we've probably touched on in this show before, but let's get into it. I don't the social science research that's gone on. We've looked at this problem in a couple of ways, and based on what we see, I'm not convinced there actually is a problem, and here's why. Because individuals aren't just getting information in a vacuum where all you've got is the word warning and nothing else to go on. They are getting information in a stream that starts probably days before for most events that really, really are impactful. They are having organizations around them that are responding and preparing. Schools are making decisions. Workplaces are making decisions. There's all these ancillary social cues. Families are informing one another. Like, this is a thing that really is an essential part of our whole risk communication system, is all the stuff beyond the technology, people caring for each other. Back to my thing about care. And in a real situation, the thing is that we don't have evidence to suggest that people being confused about the term watch or warning has ever held them up from making a good decision. The whole thing is, did they get something on their phone that buzzed? Did they hear thunder? Did they, like when the warning comes, there's a bunch of stuff that's all corroborating the warning. It's backing it up. It's functionally backing up that something is wrong that you need to pay attention to. And I can say in all the studies I've ever done on the ground, I've not encountered a case where confusion over terminology ever did hold somebody up. There are enough people in our society that understand the difference, or at least know what to do when the things buzz and they're in charge of other people, that it all works. And so the question, when we were doing HasSimp 10 years ago in the Weather Service, thinking about, are there replacement words that we can use? We didn't find anything that was like more naturally inferable, that you can tell the distinction between something that's more immediate and something that, higher probability and imperative than what we've got. Unless you have something that's really easy to plug and play, substitute, you're going to lose all that societal adaptation that's gone on to the system you do have. So sometimes it's a thing of trade-offs. And in this case, the Weather Service hung with watch and warning because warnings especially are so deeply embedded in so many policies and law and insurance payouts and everything else. Changing that would be a huge burden on society. Watch is less so, but still there. Advisories were attached to nothing. And even a lot of broadcast meteorologists didn't know what that meant. So that's why those are going away, because those are effectively useless. Yeah. But watch and warning, they do their business, at least as far as my opinion, from the social science angle, giving an analysis is concerned.
So I hope those that are going to issue their own and that's a good question in the chat. Jen, let's hear that question. I think that's important.
No, I didn't know, because I have not seen this before. I've not seen Ryan's coverage where he's done this, but is he just issuing the y'all watches or also warnings?
No, they are called y'all watches.
Y'all watches.
They're little dashed polygons that show up, like a significant weather advisory.
Okay.
It's sort of what they look like. They're not colored in, but they have the look of a warning, or a significant weather advisory, and that they're a polygon. They're usually very simple. They don't follow county lines or, like the Weather Service polygons often do. They're just usually those very simple 4 vertex polygons that say, hey, this area right here, I'm concerned about. This area right here, I'm watching very closely. I think that the National Weather Service in Jackson will probably issue a warning for this area right here very shortly. It's that kind of language. And I found that to be very appropriate, not like making the Weather Service look bad, or trying to say they're missing this, or we're better than they are. It's working hand in hand, with the Weather Service. And I know that our friend, Kevin Laws is trying to put an IWT together at the NWA this year. If the Weather Service can get their act together, and he really wants to have the involvement of our digital meteorologist friends, Ryan Hall and Max Velocity and these folks, because they need to be at the table, because they are reaching hundreds of thousands of people that are very engaged in the chat. James knows, say something bad about them, and you'll get their ire. But I learned a lot the night that we talked to Ryan several months ago, and I've watched him extensively since then. I find it, I find it very interesting. I find it very entertaining. And, I find the coverage generally to be very good. He has lots of chasers, lots of sky cams, and, they do some amazing work. Sometimes it gets really hard when they're covering an outbreak over many, many states, but they do a great job, from what I've seen. And I have to say, I'm a fan of what they're doing, and I think it's the future in a lot of ways.
And when we had him on the show, half the people said it was the greatest show ever. Half the people said, I will never watch your show again. I've never seen a polarizing figure like that. I've never seen anything like this. And it's just odd. But I do believe, and I'm not going to get into this here on the show, but I do believe we have a warning addiction problem in this country.
Absolutely.
Where people are warned to death constantly, that they're bombarded with it right now. In 2 weeks it's going to be 300 tornadoes are going to come down. It's going to be a horrible generational tornado outbreak, and they're being bombarded constantly. Already the hurricane hype has started, and not just the YouTube entertainers, us professional meteorologists, all of us. And we've got to step back. And my only request for everybody that's going to issue their own products, whether it's a watch or warning or whatever you call it, do some verification stats. Let's see how you're doing with it. Let's come back in a year and let's visit and see how you performed. What's your false alarm ratio? What's your probability of detection? Let's hear it. And I would love that. But the other concern I have is that that is a very volatile sector. These guys don't seem to get along very well. If you ever watch these guys fuss and fight on Twitter, it's bad. Yeah. I mean, it's like, guys, take it out in the parking lot here. Settle it out here, not online. And I'm just afraid that one guy, well, I'm going to outwarn you, pal. I'm going to outwarn you. I'm going to catch this tornado 2 hours before it gets in here. And they run their false alarm ratio up to 90, 95%. And I just have concerns that it's very volatile. So I'm asking that everybody that's doing this keep some verification statistics, and let's see how you're doing. And understand, the other big gripe I've got, it's this stuff. This is chapping my backside more than anything else. It just drives me nuts.
No, I agree with you.
These are broadcasters, and I'm not blaming the meteorologists. They are under pressure from their management to issue code red, weather emergency, first alert, first warn, high impact, stick your head between your legs and kiss it goodbye days when it just rains a little bit, or there's some fog, or maybe there's a little clap of thunder. And and they all come to me. Within the last 2 days, I've had multiple people on private messaging, which is what I'm looking at right now. Well, what time's the biggest tornado threat? When are the tornadoes going to come through? I said, what tornadoes? Who said that? And then they saw a code red, weather emergency day on TV. And I know it's frustrating, and nobody can say anything about it because they need their job. But just a quick note for the broadcast executives with these corporations. I hang out in Dollar Generals. I hang out in Walmarts. I really do. I really talk to the people that we serve. They're getting sick of this. You think that this is going to bring people back to linear television, Ron Burgundy newscasts. No, it's driving them away. So here's an idea. Just stop it and be honest. Yeah, use strong language when you need to. But if you use strong language every time it rains, nobody's going to pay attention to this stuff. So we got to police this mess up. And I'll stop there before I get fired.
Yeah.
And by the way, they don't make me do that. I don't do that here. I'm not under the gun to do that. And we don't do that here. So I'm very thankful for that. And I'll just leave it at that.
Well, one thing that I thought was interesting, I'd be interested in getting John's opinion on this, perhaps, and also Kim's. I've always believed that FARs ought to be published on the top of the website for every WFO in this country, and it ain't about to happen. And what the Weather Service headquarters will tell you is that people cannot understand FARs, and I understand that because they don't. I don't think they understand it. But on the other hand, if you have like James said, if you have a false alarm ratio of 99%, that doesn't take a PhD to be able to explain what's going on there. I don't know, John. I mean, you kind of reacted when I said that. What's your feeling on that, John? You come from that WFO and management position.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the tee up. So we've talked about this a couple times. Kevin Laws.
Yep.
And don't get mad at anybody else. These are facts. So if you want to look at the NBA playoffs right now, you can see who's missing free throws. You can see who's fouling. If you're in football, who's fumbling the most? How extra points? Don't get upset. So who has the best tornado stats in the country? Is it Norman? It's Birmingham.
Yep.
Birmingham. So
And
we
and
had
that
the
came
first
because
tornado.
of a meeting, right? James Spann.
Correct.
That became because
James
of a
Spann
meeting.
is the originator of the change in the Birmingham office.
Yep.
James is the one who
Well,
told him, "You're killing me."
Yeah.
And in response, they did an amazing job. They went back to basic science, and they looked at what was going wrong, and they got up into the hood and they fixed it. And I think everybody should do that. In every office, it's different, but one of the big issues here, they were issuing warnings for these high base storms that would never produce. They'd never produced a tornado, never. And warning after warning after warning after warning after warning. Guys, just stop it. And they really, really have worked hard on that here, and I really appreciate that. But and I will say it's so odd to go from office to office and see this radical culture difference. And you would think it would be a little more consistent, and it makes it hard on us when your coverage area involves 4 different Weather Service CWAs, and their cultures are all different. And you'll have these very bizarre looking maps where, well, this guy doesn't believe it's severe, this guy does, and that one doesn't. And it's like, what? And what are people supposed to do?
So in the Ohio Valley, before I left, my last thing I did is we had the first tornado summit since 1990. It was called, you'll love this, Tornado Operational Training Summit, like tater tots. And we all made a promise that we were going to address this in the Ohio Valley. And I showed everyone's FAR. Okay. That was the beginning, Troy. I showed everyone. This is your FAR, county-based, storm-based. I showed mine. I pointed mine out each time. And I said, I was like Harry Truman fan. Said the buck stops here. I said, this is unacceptable. Because I do believe in a not too distant, this is my opinion only. I believe in the not too distant future, they're going to have warning centers and have the best of the best issue nothing but warnings. I mean, some offices like Kevin Laws, they probably don't need that because they have calibrated. James, you're happy right now. Bill Murray, you're happy with the Birmingham office? That's right. Other
Big time.
offices, not happy. They're not good. And unless the management and the region, before the Weather Service was decimated, made that a priority, it wasn't going to change. But I couldn't look myself in the mirror anymore. I was like, I called uncle or whatever word you want to use. I said, enough. This is insane. So Birmingham, he'll be on next week, Bill Murray, Kevin
That's
Laws.
right.
And his
This
guest.
is going to be a big show next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. And John Gordon, you're gonna be the MC.
I got it. That part, yeah. Can I bring up
All
a
right, John,
different
you wanted to
topic?
change. You wanted to shift gears, so go.
Real quick. All right. Now that I'm not full time anymore, I can go outside. I'm amazed that these lawn mowing crews, and you listen to James Spann and James Endelot, you hear Bill Murray's forecast, you listen to Jen's forecast, and it's thunder and lightning.
Oh.
And you're mowing because you have to mow Bill Murray's house on Tuesday at 11 o'clock. And I tried to yell to this guy that this was not a good decision. This was not a good thing. Not good. And they just said, well, we mow every Tuesday at this time. And I want to say, if there was an earthquake, would you mow? What if there was a tornado? How big would the hailstorm have to be? You said, I'm not going to mow Kim's lawn. How bad would it have to be? And I'm just wondering, if you are a lawn care company, please explain to WeatherBrains why you think this is such a good idea when there's a monsoon or thunder and lightning. And I'll take it a step further. This reminded me, James, when I was in Huntsville. I went to the Robert Trent Jones golf course, beautiful golf course. And I met the superintendent. And he told me, I saw the most amazing lightning system. They had sirens and horns and whistles. It was like a circus band. And I thought, that's just great. It's wonderful. And you know what he told me? I have to almost go out there and get a gun to get them off the course. They won't leave. Yep. Lightning, thunder, horns. Kim, I want Kim to go after this. And why they won't get off the golf course, why they won't stop mowing when you know it's bad. Why, people, are you doing this?
Because Kim knows the answer, John Gordon. It's because they're men.
Well, there's something there.
How sexist. How sexist.
Well, it bears out in the statistics. This is why it costs more to insure you people. The risk seeking is a part of the genetic profile. But yeah, no, that's undoubtedly a part of it. Part of it, I think, because I grew up by a golf course, and I would watch the exact same thing. My family, we would go and try to peel people off. They would sit under this huge tree. You know, we lived right by the tee, and they would just be sitting there waiting to tee off at best. And I would just be like, oh my gosh, just please just come in our house. Like, oh, we will not watch you die because you're, and they wouldn't. What I suspect is going on is, in large part, they have experienced a lot of stormy conditions in their lives, and they know that, you know, statistically speaking, being outside, they'll probably be fine. And so what they're doing is they're taking a calculated risk. And this is where I think we are really challenged in our enterprise. I think it's important for us to find a way to discern when someone is knowingly taking a risk because that's what they want to do. We live in a country that values liberty. There are some countries where they compel people, they force people to shelter in hazards of different kinds. We don't do that. We are a liberty-loving people. And so is the point of our warnings, is the point of the Weather Service to compel, to force action? In which case, if they don't comply, then that's All right, well, you're violating the terms of this arrangement, guys. Like, we're mad at you. Or is it that we're here to give the best information we can and help people make judgments for themselves? I think this is really important for us to know a little bit more about, to really hammer in on what we think our goal is, if nothing else, so that we can reduce that frustration. I mean, you watch these people go enough times and, feel that fatalism of, well, I can't control them and you're going to have a, heart attack. And is it your job to control them? It's kind of an important question.
Well, and the only thing I'll tell you is 1 week ago, I joined y'all late because I was in Denton up in North Texas. But on Tuesday morning, I knew that the best lawn guy in the world, this guy is great here at the house. And I knew that the next morning would be stormy. I know I left a check for him in the backyard or left it in a plastic bag out back so he'd get it. But I knew next morning there were thunderstorms in Austin. He would not be here. I get back Thursday afternoon. The yard looks great. I go into the backyard and I'm going to talk to him about this. Not that he was walking amongst lightning and thunder when he mowed that yard at 9:30 last Tuesday morning. He tracked mud all over my back patio, and that is unacceptable. So, in a way, I mean, it's just, if it's not one thing, it's the other. That's the thing, I guess they'd be more worried about me telling them that than me to tell them, hey, you could have been struck by the 300 lightning bolts that were around at 9:30 last Tuesday morning. But I don't know. And I don't know. Kim said men. I don't know. We can't argue that when you have 83% of the people struck in the United States are male.
Exactly.
Okay, so they ain't no way explaining that out of that bag. So
there's part of it. And something I forgot, John, where you'd started was with the lawn folks. I keyed in on the golfing population, but something important to think about, and I do think about with those lightning deaths. There's a difference in the populations between the golfers and the lawn crews.
Yep.
And we all know what it is. And well, in many, many ways, there's many layers of it. Something that is a really interesting layer is a lot of the folks who are part of those lawn crews may not be from places where they experience the same kinds of severe hazards. They may not be as plugged into the forecast communication system. If they don't speak English, especially, that's an enormous barrier. John Gordon met my research team as we were studying the Mayfield event, and we had a focus on non-native English speaking populations as part of that. And in Bowling Green, that was a big part, near CWA, John, that was a big part of what was going on that we investigated. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point that out. I think that a part of this is, if we really care about people who are weather vulnerable, we have to ensure that they have the agency to make those choices for themselves. Yeah. And I don't know, for some of those folks that they do. If you look at lightning fatalities, I know, Chris Schultz in Alabama, he has looked at lightning fatalities pretty extensively, and he sees sort of a worrying trend, at least insofar as you can glean from death certificates, public reports, whatever. There's a lot of folks who are out there working, and it's not clear that they have agency. They're building contractors, the lawn mowing folks. It's not clear that they have a choice, and that is troubling.
Yeah. Well, and James brings up a good point from Tulsa, and that is, they don't work last Tuesday. Then, by God, they'll work next Saturday, or they won't be able to fit it in at all. They work on a very tight schedule, running one place to the other. So I can understand that. But I think, Kim, your point on the folks that do this type of work is extremely important. Well stated.
Yeah, I think it's similar to hurricane evacuations. So, some people just can't take the day off from work.
True.
But Kim, they're at your house. They get struck by lightning because they're underneath your pergola or whatever. Now you're in a lawsuit because they had to mow the darn lawn when they shouldn't have been mowing the lawn in the first place. I've said my piece.
Hey, man, what is an interesting idea If people really care about the safety issue, then something we could all consider, if people are paying to have their lawn done, you could argue you're easily a person of some privilege. If you really care about those folks, you'll pay them to not mow your yard and let them come back again the next week whenever they're next scheduled, or you'll do it yourself when it's safe. Put that money in their hand so that they can afford to not have to make that choice.
That's a
But there's
brilliant
so many
thing,
cases
Kim.
where people do have a choice. Like tonight, the 6 o'clock news. 6 o'clock news starts now. They had a reporter doing a live shot in Tuscaloosa, and there was lightning within 3 miles of that location. 3 miles. And I guess it's my fault. I really have to look at it that way. I should have taken of course, I don't pay attention. I don't even know what this stuff means when they handle these format sheets. I'm not a journalist. I don't understand that. But I think I need to take better initiative of looking at who's in the field and watching the radar and advising the news department to no, they're not going to do a live shot. You get them in the truck, get them in the van, get them inside something, and just roll their story. And they can do that. That's something that's very fixable. And I think after seeing that tonight, I need to do better. Because listen, I'm afraid of one thing when it comes to weather. One thing only, and you know what that is? It's lightning.
Yep.
And Bill Murray, remember Hurricane Opal?
Oh yeah, tell that story, James. I think
So the late great J.B. Elliott, my mentor, WeatherBrains original panelist during Hurricane Opal. This was in 95, I think, 1995. He was up there with me on Red Mountain, and we decided just to step outside and just step outside. Come on, you got this core of the hurricane coming up, and hurricanes don't have much lightning typically, but whoa, lightning. I mean, the hair on my arms started to come up. I have nothing on my head, but the hair on my arms started to come up, and you could feel it. You could feel it. And it hit the big WBRC sign up on Red Mountain right by the TV station. The noise, I couldn't hear anything for a couple of minutes. It was so intense. It scared me to death. Ever since that close encounter, I've always tried to respect lightning. And I think about it a lot. And this is a great discussion because you're right, John Gordon. It's a problem. It really is. And we don't
And I don't know
talk
where
about it
every
enough.
storm is. And I don't know where every storm is. So you want me not to mow my lawn because there's a 30% chance because you're so blank to go mow the lawn with lightning around? I have to sit around and babysit you to mow my lawn and not make a bad decision? I'm on the other side, Kim. I'm very irritated that they're doing this.
Well, we need to open up a dialogue here. So it's 30 after the hour. We have to pause. We're going to roll Tony Rice and his astronomy report. We have Jen and This Week in Tornado History. We're going to come back with some email, picks of the week, and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
Whether you're a morning person or not, there's something in the sky this week worth seeing. You can look for Mars and Jupiter in the west after sunset. Mars should be visible with a noticeably orange color, but Jupiter will be much brighter and easier to see, despite being another 4 million miles away. Jupiter being about 20 times larger than Mars helps there, but it's all those clouds that make up that gas giant that really reflect the sunlight. Speaking of planets with thick and reflective atmospheres, Venus is visible for sunrise alongside Saturn. Look to the east before sunrise, pretty low towards the horizon. Speaking of Venus, a Soviet-era spacecraft that was intended to further explore this planet that's enshrouded with a very dense atmosphere returned to Earth this weekend, early Saturday morning. Cosmos 482 suffered a launch failure back in 1972 and left it stranded in Earth orbit. That orbit has decayed over those many years to the point of uncontrolled entry, likely somewhere over the Indian Ocean or the Bay of Bengal between India and Indonesia. And that's fortunate because this titanium probe was designed to survive descent into Venus's atmosphere, which is about 100 times that of Earth. That's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
This week in tornado history, on the evening of May the 15th, 2013, a deadly tornado struck the southern edge of Granbury, Texas. It was part of a broader outbreak that produced 20 tornadoes across Texas and Oklahoma. Most were weak, but this one, rated EF4, needed just 2.5 miles to unleash devastation. 6 people were killed and dozens more were injured. The tornado developed near the western shore of Lake Granbury, clipping a few homes as it moved to the east. After crossing the water, it continued toward the Rancho Brazos Estates, a neighborhood built by Habitat for Humanity to provide affordable housing for low-income families. As the storm approached, residents stood outside, unaware of the danger. Arlena Sherman recalled watching the clouds roll in, saying, "I didn't have a clue." She went back inside just in time. The tornado intensified as it reached the intersection of Davis Road and De Cordova Ranch Road. One mobile home was thrown more than 100 yards and 2 people were killed. From there, it charged into the heart of the Rancho Brazos Estates with catastrophic force. Homes were obliterated, trees were shredded, and debris was turned into deadly missiles. 10-year-old Joseph Youngblood took shelter in a bathroom with a friend's family. When the storm passed, it was the only room left standing. The group was trapped under heavy debris until firefighters arrived and could cut them out with axes. Joseph was later reunited with his family. As the twister continued to the north, it began to weaken, damaging farmland and killing 3 horses in an open field. A few trees were stripped bare before the storm finally lifted near Bob White Drive at 8:11 p.m. Central Time. Read more about this event and hundreds more at tornadotalk.com.
All right. It is time now, ladies and gentlemen, see if just maybe there's a little email in the inbox.
We have one email that came in this week from Katie. Due to the current state of NOAA and National Weather Service, will the NOAA weather radio be affected by this cuts? And how can we, as weather enthusiasts, vocalize our support for NOAA, National Weather Service, and outrage during these certain uncertain times? And Bruce Jones just showed up just in time. Hi, Bruce. Welcome.
Yeah.
So, did you catch that question?
I did. Yeah. I've been real concerned about it, but in talking with folks at National Weather Service, even in Silver Spring, I think we're okay for now. Knock on woods, fingers crossed. The issue is NOAA Weather Radio really kicks off our entire warning system. So it kind of kicks off EAS on television and radio stations. It kicks off the WEA alerts on your cell phone. So it's difficult to go messing with NOAA Weather Radio without upsetting the entire apple cart. I've been very scared about it, to be honest with you. I don't want this to start in any way, shape, or form. We've got a wonderful network of 1,035 transmitters nationwide. It's taken 50 years to build it into what it is right now. And it would be a shame, an absolute shame to see anything happen to it. So far, so good. Just remember that your representatives in Congress have a lot to say about this. So make sure they know that you use NOAA Weather Radio, you need NOAA Weather Radio, and it's an important part of America's warning system. Let your voice be heard.
Absolutely. And Kim and John, do you think those the best way is just to continue to reach out to your representatives about the importance of your weather service office and, how much they mean to keeping people safe? Is that the best route to vocalize for whoever you are?
Absolutely. I also think when you see Ken Graham, you should let him know. I think you should let your local legislator, your local forms of representative government know how you feel about this. Your emergency management, one of the biggest blocks, Bruce Jones, is the IAEM, the International Association of Emergency Managers. Let your local emergency manager know.
Yeah.
Also, it just letting you know as well, remind your representatives that you pay their butts to be up there representing you. And that's where, if they did anything in Congress right now, it'd be the first time in 30 years they have. So remind them you pay their salary and you'll put them into office and you'll take them out just as quickly.
I'm gonna clip that out and I'm gonna send it out to people. Just play this.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Troy.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for Katie for writing. Thank you to everyone who sends us emails with questions or concerns, you have jokes, riddles, show suggestions, email at weatherbrains.com.
And Bruce Jones, we're hoping that you've got the Durango weather guy with you there tonight. Looks like you're at the DoubleTree in Durango, maybe.
No, actually, this is kind of swanky. I'm at the Hilton in West Palm Beach, right by the convention center. The convention center's right down there.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I was on the wrong side of the country.
Yeah,
and,
sorry. No, this is the Florida Governor's Hurricane Conference that starts tomorrow afternoon. So it's not just about the state of Florida. Of course, it's focused upon the state of Florida, but we have folks from all over the nation who come to this big hurricane conference down here, and hopefully we'll get a good hurricane briefing from the Hurricane Center, and hopefully the National Weather Service folks will be here in full force. They usually are. I'm just again, knock on wood, just hoping that the National Weather Service can make their usual appearance because they give the presentations that everyone wants to see. You know, you come to these emergency management conferences, the number one most popular presentation is always something that is done by National Weather Service.
Amen.
These emergency managers live, eat, sleep, and breathe weather. And that's their thing. And the more they can understand about it, the more they can, anticipate maybe what's coming. Boy, that just makes their job so much easier. So we're hoping that the full force of National Weather Service is here at the Hurricane Conference in Florida.
Well, Bruce, our weekly message on here is working. Someone came up to me the other day and said, "Where can I get one of those weather radios y'all talk about on the show?" And I said, "Boy, have we got a deal for you." We've been talking about it a lot tonight, but Bruce, talk about the special offer that you've got for listeners of WeatherBrains, so they can get one of these life-saving devices directly at a savings from you guys. They don't even have to go out to their local Walgreens or their local CVS or their local Walmart or wherever. They can get it straight from the source.
Yeah, and let me just say this to flatter you, Bill, and James. This 25% off discount. This is the biggest discount that Midland gives on anything. So we really value the voice of WeatherBrains. We value what goes on this program. The admonition to get every WeatherBrains listener to speak on behalf of NOAA Weather Radio, to stand up for it, to talk about it, to promote it, to advertise it, to let people know that there's this dynamic and wonderful weather radio network out there. And all you need to do to take advantage of it is to get a gizmo called a radio that will decipher the signal that flies through the air. Well, you can get one of these here weather radios at midlandusa.com, and you can get it at 25% off when you use the promo code SPAN25. That's SPANN25. SPANN25. SPAN25 is a 25% off promo code when you go to midlandusa.com. Now, there's a limit of 5 radios per person and or per credit card, but this is a great deal. We just had Mother's Day. Father's Day is next, and we're getting into the rough patch here in May when we get a lot of tornado activity popping up again, and then we're going to go right on into hurricane season. So use this promo code. It's 25% off. The promo code is SPAN25, and you use that online at midlandusa.com.
Excellent. Everybody needs one. And be sure and tell your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, your mama, your daddy, your son, your daughter. Everybody needs one. Business, home. So please, please, it's like having a smoke alarm in your house for a tornado. They can't be beat. We have one. And if we have one, you need one. Weather Radio. So picks of the week, I'll start. So it's getting rough out there. Fellas, it is getting rough. Ladies and gentlemen, it is getting rough out there. Hurricane season is about to begin. And some of the most nasty vitriol I've received in recent times involves the Gulf. And you basically just have to stop and call it the Gulf, which is what we do. Listen, if you're from down here, that's what you call it. It's you go into the Gulf.
Yeah.
But if you dare call it the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America, you will be inundated with pure hatred from these political extremists that are basically lemmings that are unable to think for themselves, and they have been brainwashed to attack anybody verbally, and in some cases they want to attack you physically. That just maybe didn't vote for your candidate in the presidential election. And so now it's become politicized. Everything's politicized. My left shoe is politicized. But so I put out a little statement just on social media asking people, these extremists, to maybe consider some grace. I've been doing this 47 years. It's the Gulf of Mexico. And if I say that, it doesn't mean I'm leaning toward a political candidate or anything. I don't care about any of this stuff. And the same thing, somebody, if somebody says the Gulf of America, it triggers people. So it's gotten to that point. So can we just stop it? Yes. Can we just calm down for a minute and let it go? What have we become here? People, and I accidentally posted a picture, and I often quote people when people send me a picture. This is from Joe Blow, and this is what they said. And I didn't even pay attention. It said Gulf of America, and it got on my Facebook page. Oh, goodness. You think the world was ending. I was a phobe, denier, Nazi, Hitler, all this stuff. And then I deleted it, and immediately I became a libtard, woke, all this other stuff from the other side. Yep. And so can you just stop it and maybe let it go? Nobody's making a political statement. We're trying to help you. Hurricane season is here. We're going to have to refer to the Gulf a lot. And I will be posting maps from the National Hurricane Center, and guess what they say? It says Gulf of America. I didn't make the map. It comes from the Hurricane Center. And if you think you can't trust them because their map says Gulf of America and you need to go find, the chemtrail action team or whatever you need to find, then fine. But it's gotten bad. But anyway, the local AL.com did a story on it. So that's my pick of the week. So enough of that. Yeah. Troy, what you got there?
Got the chemtrail. We got, come on, James. I love it.
Hang on here. I got to, I know it's in my soundboard here somewhere. Where is the chemtrail thing? I can't believe I can't find it. It's one of my favorite. Maybe the chemtrailers. Here it comes. Here. There we go.
Hey, James, let's switch them on now. James, let's switch them on. Come on. Great. 1, 2, 3. There we go. To 4.
Whoop.
Yeah. We're in trouble now.
Chrissy Hurley in Nashville gave this to me. I spoke at one of her events. This was too good. All right. While you got the floor, Troy, go ahead. Your pick of the week.
I have nothing tonight. I have nothing.
Oh, wow. I love the tone of the fog. Let's go to Jen Naramore. Jen, give us a pick.
So I had a really great opportunity to be a part of the Ohio Roots podcast, and it's affiliated with the Ohio Genealogical Society. And we talked tornado talk. Thomas Gruzoulis was brought up a few times, and also the virtual tornado memorial project that we're spearheading here. And it was really neat to get a chance to talk to this group. And they actually want me to do a webinar, which will be later in the summer, to kind of take folks through what we're doing and how we can utilize the help from genealogists. And so I'm really excited to be able to do this. And I hope this is something that will spearhead, other groups that we can talk to, from different states. So it's really going to be a crowdsource effort for this. So I need folks who've already done the research to help me out to make sure we get the history right. So this is so important to find. I cannot physically by myself and with Zach 22,000 names. So we know that there are folks out there who know, what happened to these folks during these tornado events, and you can help us. So this was just one step forward with this podcast.
Excellent. And all these links will be up on weatherbrains.com. James ate a lot. Give us a pick.
Mine is a YouTube link to the Wish TV special after the Palm Sunday tornadoes in 1965. And it is delightfully campy to see television done in 1965. And the female weather person referred to as Wish's weather girl. And I would just go,
Ah! Ah! Wow. Goodness gracious. And I was alive in 1965. This is how old I am. I mean, I was probably watching that special somehow. I mean, it's just like,
well, that's
yeah, it was
clearly back when they had 500-mile-per-hour winds and you needed to be in the southwest corner of your home and open the
yeah,
windows
exactly.
on
And
the way.
open all the windows. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. All right, John Gordon, give us a pick of the week.
Okay, this is the shout out to the Storm Prediction Center. How many of you started seeing their quantitative intensity forecasts in the MCDs? That's another thing you college students should be doing, you high school students. Read the MCDs, the mesoscale convective discussions. They're putting in there in this area probabilities of an F2 tornado or F1 tornado or hail over 2.5 inches. Well, guess what? You think you like that pick of the week? Well, I got more because Bill Bunting told me today that in the not too distant future, they're going to put it in their convective outlooks. They're going to put quantitative intensity forecasts in their outlooks. It's coming to a theater near you. So shout out to Russ Snyder and John Hart and Rich Thompson and Bill Bunting and the whole gang at the Storm Prediction Center. You guys are doing great stuff. Yeah. Well done.
Outstanding. What does Rich do now? What's his title, John?
He's the ops. Okay, so Bill got promoted to the deputy director, and Rich Thompson got the operations branch chief.
Okay, outstanding. Rich and John Hart. Goodness, those are our Army Rangers, our Navy SEALs. They're the guys. I mean, they're outstanding. All right, Kim, give us a pick of the week. Go.
Yeah. So carrying on with the theme of what a time this is, I have picked a news release from Unidata that is near and dear to the hearts of many of our listeners. But it's the just most recent small pebble of a thing that it forms the basic infrastructure of our field that has now lapsed because of the challenges associated with every contract funded by everything. This one, in this case, they were caught up in all of the upheaval from NSF. They're an NSF-funded organization. But for those who aren't familiar with Unidata, they provide so much to our whole field, especially research, academia, and operational forecasting. I mean, so many people leverage their resources, their databases, and software that they develop so that people can leverage the data. They have whole workshops for, users of data to make sure that our field is proficient in the data that's out there so that we can use it to do research. It's one of those, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the XKCD cartoon that's like, oh, here's all the modern infrastructure of the whole world, all these complicated, the complicated cityscape, and it's all hinging on this tiny block. And it's like, there's this little bit of code this one guy in Nebraska has been thanklessly maintaining since 2005. And these are the kinds of things that really do underpin our field. Unidata is one of those little blocks under our city. And so its funding has lapsed for now. We'll see what happens to it. But I didn't want it to go without mention that our friends there are facing this lapse.
Yeah, horrible loss. Thank you, Kim. All right, let's see here. Bruce Jones, give us a pick of the week.
Well, I'm in West Palm Beach, Florida, and my flight coming in was delayed for, 45 minutes or so because it was raining so heavily down here. We flew in at a break in the rain, and then just as soon as we landed, the skies opened up again. And we've had a drought down here in southern Florida for the last several weeks or months. And I wanted to know how much rain has fallen. And luckily, Florida has an automated weather network, FAWN, and they have all that information on here. Plus, they're also tracking the blooms of the flowers on the citrus trees. So you can go and see that they've got their little buds out now. They haven't flowered yet, but the citrus crop is moving along right along. FAWN.
Excellent.
Florida Automated Weather Network.
Fantastic. All right, Bill Murray, you're up.
Yeah, James, I'm going to follow Troy's lead and take the foghorn here. But I'm a little snake bit tonight on guess, but really excited next week. My youngest is graduating, so we'll be attending his graduation ceremonies for Vestavia Hills High School at Sanford University. But John Gordon has graciously agreed to be the master of ceremonies for a great show with Kevin Laws, Jason Sankvile, and Randy Bowers. And it's going to be all about warnings and that whole process. So, it's going to be, it's going to be on the level of WWE. I can just promise you that. On the 27th, that'll be a Tuesday show. Dan and Leslie Landrigan will be joining us talking about the New England weather book that they recently published. Fascinating read. I loved it. We'll be talking about a lot of great weather stories. Max Velocity, who was mentioned earlier tonight, will be with us on the 9th. And I'm pleased to announce that on the evening of Monday, June the 30th, Lars Lewinsky, German meteorologist, and this is all because of John Gordon, will be joining us early that morning in Germany. It'll be early on July 1st. And he will be back from one of their test beds that he will have just been through. So it will be a fascinating night of learning about German meteorology with Lars Lewinsky. So very, very excited about that. Lots of great shows coming up on WeatherBrains, James. And maybe
exciting.
we've got the Durango guy somewhere doing the go around right now. So maybe he'll land on June the 12th. We'll see.
All right, good deal. Well, listen, if you're new here, we would love to hear from you. Our email address, it's email@weatherbrains.com. And we are typically on the air every Monday night at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, youtube.com/weatherbrains. But most of you listen via your podcast app. If you watch, listen, thank you. And again, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. God bless. I love a homegrown show.
That was great.
That was
It
fun.
was a great
Good.
show.
Really
Thank y'all.
Yeah, that was good.
It's fun.
Outstanding.
I
Good night,
loved
everybody.
all
Thanks,
the
guys.
career